Well, thank you. We have a great panel lined up here, and what we're going to do quickly is show a video to start out with. The panel is on scaling up. I know lots of discussions happen around scale up at many industry conferences. It's kind of always been my perspective that those panels often don't really dig deep into the pain and learnings around scale up, and instead they often focus on progress and glitz and glamour. If you guys have a video up there, this would be a good time to roll it. So you remember when I mentioned the glitz and the glamour a couple minutes ago? Well, I'm guessing, I see Janice in the audience. So Janice and I worked together a long time ago when we were both doing strain development and then ultimately building that facility that you just saw. And as she pointed out, or as was pointed out for her, that facility is now, in 2024, one of the largest producers of non-fish-based DHA in the world. That facility broke ground more than a decade ago, and the highlight here, the main point here, is that although that looks like a wonderful video that is the fruit of an amazing amount of work, the number of mistakes and the amount of pain and the length of time, and it involved everything from capital formation and not necessarily the best sources of capital formation to partnering to utilities to you name it. If there was something that could have been difficult, it was difficult. And so it's not intended to be an answer so much as to be an opening into a story around scale up. We have an amazing panel here, very, very lucky to have them. And what I'm hoping is that we can get a real candid conversation on scale up that is not only truthful, but hopefully helpful to other entrepreneurs and people in the room who are responsible for scale up, because it's absolutely critical to get this done. I'm currently a serial entrepreneur. I co-founded and was the CEO of Solazyme. Currently, I run Thrive Algae Oils, which is a piece of consumer oils that we bought back that has a broad set of applications, as well as a couple other companies. But the main point here is for the folks over to my left to get to tell you what they have going on. Before I do that, though, I want to thank F3. I want to thank Barbara and the F3 team for putting together a phenomenal one. I was lucky to have been there at the first one, and although that was wonderful, this has come a long way, and I hope you guys feel really good about what it is you're doing. I have a wonderful panel, starting on my far left with Suresh, then John, Brian, and Pablo. And what I'm going to ask you guys to do first is I'm going to ask you to give us a brief sketch of your professional backgrounds, and then you can fold in a bit about the company and the products. And I'm hoping you'll also give us a high level of where you are on your commercialization, on your scale-up journey. And Suresh, you're the lucky guy. You're up first, so why don't we start there?
Well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Jonathan. So my like Jonathan said, it's a painful journey, and you start with the education, right? Your parents are your first investors, so I thank my parents for that. And I did my PhD in engineering science, which included nutrition, life sciences, etc. And then started my first company and did some good stuff, over time. I think most of you have used my products today. In 1994, I invented the sintered alloys, which is a combination of nanotechnology that helps you to lower and raise the windows of your car. That was done by MagnaQuench, and that was an incredible experience for me. In 97, invented a technique to detect certain nitrogen molecules in liquids that was then cleared, and after 9/11, it got acquired by a General Electric company, and today you're not able to take bottled water on the plane because of that work. And it goes on and on. So each company I build, I sell it. The current company I built is amazing. We are in the animal feed ingredient business, but on a commercial path, I'm also on the human nutrition side. And that's what I will leave it for now. Give more time to my fellow panelists.
What were the questions again?
Well,
I feel like it was intro plus.
You're going to give us a little professional background. You're going to tell us about your company and its products at a high level. And then let us know where you are on the commercialization journey.
All right. My name's John Hayes. Pleasure to be with you all today. I started my journey out in 12, 13 years ago at university. I graduated with an accounting degree and realized I didn't want to be an accountant, which was probably not the right first step to going out in the world. But I was fortunate enough to be able to grab a job in Munich, where I was involved with mergers and acquisitions and buying and selling companies. And we were one of the largest, if not the largest, German agricultural company. So I kind of got thrown into the agri side of the business, really on the farm side of it. I did that for 5 years in Munich, and my position ended up rolling out into Rotterdam, and we were then one of the biggest soy and soy meal importers and traders. And I was head of business development there, and similar, picking up distressed assets, building teams, bringing online new products. And that was all fun and games until really kind of a lot of the anti-soy rhetoric started, and you start kind of questioning what value you're really adding to society. The soy is going to move. You're really just kind of facilitating something that you start to become discontent with. And I ended up looking for another way. I'd spent 10 years in corporate, and I ended up getting a job. Tried to buy the company originally, but fortunately they turned me down, and I ended up being able to get a VP of commercial at Deep Branch. So we are doing single cell protein. It's been talked a lot about here. I'm not really going to go into all the great attributes of it. Ours is based off of CO2 and hydrogen. So we get to deal front and center with the energy transition, because that's a big component with us. We are, the company itself was founded in 2018, 2019 by 3 guys out of Nottingham. Pretty good connections in with the universities and a number of partnerships that have formed, and we've been very fortunate with a lot of the partnerships that we've got on board. We've had a bit of troubles nonetheless in our journey through scale, and right now we are in the throes of commissioning our pilot facility, which will allow us to do a lot more research and development in application testing. It'll also allow us to understand more the dynamics of the bioreactor. Obviously, if you're working with gas fermentation, it's a totally different reactor design to a lot of other fermentation vessels. Did I answer all the? Did I get enough of it? You got the gist. All right.
All right, thank you, John. My name is Brian Siddons. I'm from BASF, and I am a recovering legal professional. So about 5 years ago, I moved out of the legal department and into the business side. supporting the animal feed and nutrition on licensing and IP strategy. And then just recently, I started out with the BASF bioservices business, which I'll tell you a little bit about later. So I worked in the legal department for about 12, 15 years at BASF, started out as a smaller company that then was acquired by BASF about 10 years ago. And prior to that, I worked in a law firm for about 4 years and have a background in biology. So I've seen everything from litigations to mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, into the research side, in-house, and watching commercial products go from discovery all the way through the pipeline up into the marketplace, which is really an amazing journey. So that's kind of my background. And in terms of BASF Bioservices, so we've been developing and commercializing biotechnology products, proteins, and enzymes for more than 30 years at large scale, so 190,000 liters. And we've done this in animal feed, we've done this for detergents, we've done this for bioethanol. So we've got a lot of experience and a lot of capabilities in terms of that entire pipeline. So historically, we've done this only for internal businesses, and now we are opening up these capabilities to the external world as well, just within this last year or so. So it's a very exciting time. I feel like a startup in a big giant corporation, so it's a little bit of the best of the both worlds. So yeah, and then BASF also has this animal nutrition and feed ingredients business, which provides a lot of ingredients and additives for this industry. We also may be of interest, we have a BASF venture group, which supports companies in the seed stage to Series B in businesses that are related to BASF, so agricultural products, feed products. And then one last thing I'd like to mention is we also have a Chemovator, which is our incubator, and this is for early stage company startups and pre-seed companies. So if you guys are ever interested in any of those things, please reach out.
Thank you. So my name is Pablo Berner. I work for Nuseed. I am an aquaculture engineer with a master's degree at the Norwegian Agriculture University. That was many years ago. After my days in Norway, I come back to Chile, which I live, and I built a salmon farming company, which I was sold the company after many years of production and hard work. It's part of the salmon farming globalization. We sell the company. And then I became the commercial lead for a pharmaceutical company in Chile, always involved in salmon farming and fish health. After 5 years in that work, I met Benita Berner from Nuseed, and I became the aquaculture business lead for our company. We are working with omega-3 canola oil, which is produced here in the US. We grow our crop in North Dakota, Montana, and we partner with ADM to crush the grain and produce the oil. And we are mainly serving Chilean businesses, Chilean fish feed companies and vertically integrated companies, also the Canadian salmon farming industry. And hopefully, soon, we will provide Norway. We already got an approval in Norway, so we are working hard to get our step over there. It's a huge market over there, and big industry needs new novel ingredients. So this is what we do, open to work.
Well, it's been a long time coming, and certainly it's a good example when we get to some of the challenges of how large-scale agriculture and infrastructure fit in. I'm going to come back to Suresh here for a minute, and he's shaking his head. We got a nice list of companies and technologies that he's founded as clearly a successful serial entrepreneur, and I would guess that as a repeat founder who's at it again, he's been through some trials and tribulations as it relates to scaling up commercializing technologies. And what I'm hoping you can tell us a bit about, Suresh, is tell us about some of those big, hairy challenges If you can give us an example of maybe one that you solved, that's great. If not, that's fine too, even though I'm sure there are some. And if you can throw in a mistake, that would be wonderful. I think we'd all love to hear about that.
I'm only allowed one, I guess. Well, everything you do in scale-up has catch-22. You have to get something else done before you can get success on the one you're working on. That is the biggest problem. So I met, my biggest challenge starting out was I was trying to build a pilot plant in San Diego. Gorgeous place. And who would think about building, these huge tanks and reactors in the middle of a city that's supposed to be a tourist spot? And it so happened that the place I picked was in the flight path of Top Gun. And it was a huge meeting with Marine Corps and the fire marshal and everybody under the sun. So why are you building it here? I put up the first tank already. And so all kind of conversations ensued. And the main problem was, what if a plane flying over San Diego actually falls into my pilot plant, which had 4 tanks, and it was filled with water, by the way. That's all I had done in construction. And I was yet to build my bioreactors and everything else. And at the end of a long discussion that went on for 3-4 days, finally the fire marshal stood up, said, let me just stop this nonsense. If a plane does fall anywhere in San Diego, I hope it falls in Suresh's factory because he's got 4 tanks of water. I'm not kidding you. I thought it was the end of it, after 3 days of presenting data of trial after trial after trial. And finally, from a lab, I had built my first pilot. After that came trademarks. And it was so funny because coming up with the name for a product is so critical. And I said, okay, let's call my company Menon Renewables. And I said, MR Feed, Menon Renewable Feed. And it's all uppercase, MRF, and then small EED. Sent it to the trademark office. They made a mistake. It came back as capital M, small r, capital F, EED. And I looked at it and said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And every time I go into Mexico, for example, they call me Senor Feed, Mr. Feed is here. It became a catchy. So everything is challenging when you scale up. You have to think about trademark, how you're going to classify, the technical specs, COA, you name it, and be ready to change it all and redo the whole thing all over again. And every day you must focus on what is most critical, and that is your customers. Make sure you're giving them what they want. They have their own way of analyzing. They have these least cost formulations and calculators, and you have to figure out how you fit in their calculator, how you fit in their life without changing their operation and their bottom line. So I'm just going to leave it at that. There's plenty of other details and stories, but I'm going to turn it over to John.
Yeah, John, we'd love to hear. One of the steps along the way is always a pilot plant, and there must be 1 or 2 things you can tell us about your process of getting this pilot plant up and running, maybe a solution even.
I've been advised by my legal guy that I can't say too much in lieu of some of the challenges that we faced and the people that I want to really call out. We've basically built 2 pilot plants. In one, we kind of really got let down by one of our vendors, and that's probably the biggest takeaway. You're oftentimes going out to experts in fields, asking them what their opinion is and you design stuff, and then you're incorporating that and you're trusting that they're experts in their field for a reason, but they might not be experts in the thing that you're trying to do. And that has been the thing that's really caught us off guard of, just because they maybe have designed something at a smaller scale, or they kind of understand fluid dynamics, or maybe they're aware of safety concerns in Europe, but not fully of what's going on in the Netherlands, it has definitely come back to bite us once or twice of, wait, what opinion did we just pay for? Because that wasn't what showed up at the end of it, and we can't get certified for that, and you've had to go back through the whole thing over and over, and then it's fun to laugh about it and smile about it on the back end of it, but certainly in the middle of it, it's you're crying, trying to figure out what you're going to do next, and that's been probably one of the bigger takeaways from us. Even things that that we wouldn't thought we got tripped up on, we've been tripped up on. Cultural differences for us were a big thing. We're an English company that decided to build a pilot facility in Holland. And I don't know if you've ever worked with somebody from the Netherlands or somebody from England, but their styles of speaking are very different. They couldn't be more opposite. The Brits love to say stuff, but not really say what they mean, but it's all in subcontext. And the Dutch are very much, everything they say is very high context, and there's no black or white, or there's no gray in between. And that has been, even that has added friction into the process. And that's, been something that we've had to take away. Okay, how do we build this in for training of our team to work across cultural bounds, to work across different styles and whatnot. So those are probably about the two that have reared its head, and we've dealt with and moved on, and got the battle scars to prove it.
Thank you. Brian, I know BASF has a very long history of scaling up technologies and doing much of it through partnerships. I was on the board of a company called Avantium that had a scale-up joint venture with BASF, and that was an exciting ride, I'll say. And I'm curious, with the services business that you guys are building, it has the potential to really help a lot of early stage companies kind of make it through. I'm wondering what you guys are going to bring to this offering that might actually, deliver the goods to help companies, get there, get scaled up, and start selling commercially.
Yeah, thank you. So, these two gentlemen have hit on a couple of the points already, which is there's so many different factors required to scale up, from the trademarks to the quality to the regulatory in the specific industry, in the specific country for the specific product. And it's really that knowledge that BASF can kind of help bring to the table for this industrial production of proteins. And the way that we see ourselves fitting in is again, really applying these capabilities to others and sharing this knowledge and expertise with others. So you don't have to make the same mistakes that we made going through these things. Obviously, as you said, there's this balance, right, between entrepreneurs who know their industry, know their products, know where they want to go, but there's a lot of things they don't know. And, a company like BASF has a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, and there's sort of this natural tension between the two. I know more. No, I know more. And it's really works best when you listen to the other side and you hear what they have to say and you respect each other and you actually work together to solve problems, because that's what really accelerates commercialization and gets your products into the marketplace.
Thank you. Pablo, you have a key commercialization partnership with ADM, and one of the interesting elements of scale up, often as it relates between smaller companies and bigger companies, is the importance of getting a partnership to work and the ability to work your way through the challenges that inevitably rise. And I'm wondering if you could talk to us a little bit, obviously limited by your own comfort level here, if you could talk to us a little bit about how partnership has figured in both positively and maybe also in any challenges you're willing to share.
So thank you for the question. First, the partnership with ADM is for production. So we crush in their facility under our own guidelines. So it's not commercialization partnership, by the way. It's only production. By the other hand, partnership has been the way we can really introduce our product within the aquaculture industry. First, we start planning and organizing long-term and scale trials with fish farmers, with fish feed producers. After that, we get them comfort about the use of our product. Then, after doing that for more than, I could say, 3 years, the industry felt comfortable about it. So it's as a suggestion for all of you, try to get partnership with industrial scale trials. It's not only doing a trial in a lab, you need to challenge within the industry, facing the, we could say, normal challenges the industry is facing in a farm with environmental, let's say, disruptions in these days. So partnerships is a key factor to succeed and to feel the industry comfortable with your own product. And then, of course, commercialization is difficult. It's not easy. You need to face many logistic challenges to approach the customer, to fulfill their requirement, as you said. In our case, for some, they don't have a special tank for us, for example. So we need to be clever, we need to be smart the way we approach the fish feed facility. There's many different difficulties, but it's very constructive if we work together with the clients as a partner. I don't know if I answered the question.
Oh, I think you did. I think you did very well. Thank you. I appreciate it. Suresh, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to you, and you know, I do want to ask you about partnerships. But even before that, I'd like to talk a little bit about capital formation as it relates to scale up, as it relates to CapEx and manufacturing facilities. This is often one of the critical elements. Where does the money come from? What are the, are there a set of shared goals with the money? Do entrepreneurs understand, and this is one I'll throw out there as a learning that it's something that you sometimes have to spell out for people. Do entrepreneurs that you come along, that you meet along the way, do they understand the critical importance of return on invested capital? It's not just your COGS, but your return on invested capital, and there's a whole host of elements that kind of fall off of capital formation as it relates to scale up, and I'm hoping maybe you can give us some insight into how you've managed this process in any of your companies, frankly, certainly Menon, to the extent that you want to talk about it.
Wow, that's a great question. Let me just think for a second. So before I got married, pretty much all the companies I built and sold were either a licensing deal or, you know, some quick turnaround. That's what I liked. You know, I would spend 3 years on it and I'm done. For this one, credit goes to my wife. She's an amazing woman. I hope all of you had a good Mother's Day this weekend. My wife is amazing, you know, and she is very forgiving. Without her, I don't think we could have done what I did. I finished the pilot. I had sent out samples. In fact, some of the first samples went to Dr. Rick Barrows, who presented materials, the paper earlier. And it was good. I tested it small scale, went to credible labs. This is what it takes. You have to test and test and test, and then you're convinced. But if you can convince your wife, believe me, you're in a good place. And the return on investment is how quick I can get things back, right? So my wife challenged me and said, show me how serious you are. And I said, well, I need X million dollars to put up a commercial size plant based on the design of my pilot. And it will take credit facility, let's put a little bit of our money up front and get some investment, etc. And I went to the bank. I went to Wells Fargo, actually, of all the banks. And they loved my cash position and so on, but they said, no, I got to have some collateral, Suresh. And so my wife, like I said, she agreed to pledge our house. San Diego house, beautiful house. No one does this, by the way. And she's so brave. And we got the facility, and Wells Fargo was amazed. I signed it. I signed the papers. And they said, Suresh, you got the credit facility. And I've not taken a single penny from any investor at that point. I then went and took the product to the largest strategics I could get, like Pilgrims, Tyson, JBS, Naqua in Saudi Arabia, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, try this product. I'll give you 100 days. The results that came back was phenomenal. And the first adopter, the major adopter, was Tyson. Today, we are supporting 226 million birds at Tyson out of 2 billion. 25 trucks a week is what goes out. And that's just one customer. And that's in the animal feed business. We were able to get our house back in 2 years. And my wife was very happy. So since then, I've never looked back. I then went to a private equity. I shopped around. And you have to be very careful, by the way. If you shop, be careful who you go to, because you don't want to expose yourself to too many investors. And you have to be very careful on terms. So my strategy was to go to Tyson and get a 10 days payout, and my vendors would be 45 days. So I had plenty of time to get paid, pay the vendors. I'm off and running. So this financial balance is critical. This was the main reason why we succeeded in then transitioning the product and others, and I'll tell you later about the human side. But the animal feed side margins are less than 10% on a good day. So you have to really be careful not to make any mistakes on logistics, delivery times, nothing. It's like zero. You cannot make any mistakes. If you tell a customer you're going to deliver a truck on a certain day at a certain time, you better show up. It doesn't matter whether it's snowing, whatever weather conditions there are. Otherwise, you just tell them, no, I can't. But the day you say you can't, their silos get filled by something else. They will replace you in a heartbeat. So managing inventory is critical. So what I have done is I put up 4 facilities around the world that are very close to the strategics. So one of them is right next to Tyson in Arkansas. I got an opportunity to lease that facility and co-pack over there. That's an example. So these are some of the lessons of scaling up: financial, commitment, delivery on time. Yes, innovation is awesome, but if you don't deliver, all of that is waste. Sorry for my long answer.
I'll tell you that, we all have heard the famous, Fred Smith go to Las Vegas story when FedEx was when he was on his final dollar with FedEx. But you're leveraging your house into your first plant is I have never heard a story like that. And your wife, you're right, what a champ. And I'll say I'm thrilled to hear how it turned out. You also mentioned something else there. You kind of buried it, but it's something else I think which is important and critical. You talked about working capital cycles once you're actually up and running. And I think the fact that you were able to match timelines on a 10-day payable, on a 10-day receivable, and a 45-day payable. I don't know, people don't really appreciate the working capital elements of this until they're running a business like you are. So thank you for that. And, John, I think you have an opportunity, given your background really coming in this from a finance side and from understanding M&A, to tell us a little bit about capital formation as well. It can certainly be from your current experience, but I think any of these experiences that you've had as they relate to scale up, and anything maybe that the audience here might be able to take away as a positive would be great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways I can answer this question. I think probably the one thing that I've taken away around, it relates also to partnership, but for capital structures as well, is when good times are good, it's easy finding the right partners and whatnot. And the question's really about when the times are tough, who do you have around the table that's there to support you on the cap side as well, and who does well together. You sort of get into some sort of poker negotiations, who's jockeying for positioning and whatnot. That's for us been kind of a learning curve and a takeaway. We've been very fortunate with our partners and whatnot, but yeah, you could easily see it come through. And then also the other side of it is your cap structure your cap table can actually affect commercialization. There's been a few times where we've gone out and had chats with different commercial partners, and they've looked at us and they've gone, cool, you've got some strategics on board. It's great that you've got the ability to get deeper pockets, but we're looking at them as a potential competitor in some other field that we're looking for. So actually, we would rather not go down a development path with you. So it does sometimes limit opportunities with respect to commercialization. And fortunately, it's been few and far between, but those angles can rear their heads in unforeseen ways.
Brian, you mentioned a few minutes ago, you mentioned some of what this new business at BASF does. You didn't mention why you wanted to be part of it. And I think that story of why you wanted to be part of it might help the folks out in the audience understand a little bit about what you think BASF can really do as a partner to companies on this scaling journey. Because I think everybody understands that this scaling journey is exciting is one word, difficult is another. It's a lot of things. It's also, when it works, absolutely phenomenal and a big rush. So maybe tell us why you wanted to be part of it and what you think at its heart you're going to be able to bring to the much smaller and younger companies that you're going to be working with, or maybe are already.
Yeah, thank you. So I mean, if we think about the whole product life cycle, product development life cycle, and commercialization, BASF has really developed this over years. So we have large metagenomic libraries where we can look in and do product discovery. We've done protein engineering using both wet lab and now digital techniques. We've done strain engineering with a handful of commercially relevant, proven, regulatory approved industrial strains. And these are all very important words because lots of people look at different strains and they find one, they say, oh, we're gonna scale this up. And then they get to the regulatory phase and realize no one's ever touched it before. The regulators hate it. They have tons of questions. It takes forever, and it just bogs the whole process down. We've learned that the hard way, and so we've really refined the strains that we have, and we consistently use them over and over and over to accelerate that regulatory process. We also have bioprocess development and downstream processing capabilities. And then with the commercial scale plants, so we have our own assets, and then we also have a contract manufacturing network. And our strain engineers, our bioprocess engineers, and the commercial manufacturing team are all working seamlessly together through the entire innovation cycle. So there's no surprises when you get to the commercial scale, because it's the last thing the commercial person wants is for the bioprocess engineer from the research department to hand them a protocol, and he says, this is awesome, it looks amazing. We don't have any of these assets. We can't use any of this equipment that you've designed. So now they have to go and they have to buy equipment, and they have to install it, and they have to verify it, and that takes time, and that takes money, and that's delaying your product launch. So being able to share all this knowledge with others is what is kind of driving this for BASF. We have a very strong commitment to sustainability. We are reporting our carbon emissions right along with our financials on a quarterly basis. So that kind of gives you an indication about how committed we are to this. And we see biotechnology being a strong driver of the sustainability in industry. And we can't do everything. We can do a lot, but we know there's a lot of others out there who have great ideas, and we want to help get those ideas to the marketplace.
So, Pablo, you're an entrepreneur as well as a guy who's working hard on commercialization of new technologies in a somewhat bigger company now. I'm wondering if there are a couple of lessons that you might share with the audience about your experiences over these many years. It can certainly be from Nuseed, but it can be from the aquaculture work you did before. This is clearly an audience who can learn something from somebody who's actually been on the use case side of this. But anything you want to share with us as it relates to scale up and commercialization, I think would be valuable.
Perseverance, resilience. When the cash flow is when you have a lack of cash flow, you need to keep fighting. Do the good fight. I think today we all share a mission here, which is make the aquaculture industry more sustainable. We know that the lack of, let's say, or limited production of marine ingredients is a key. It's a case that maybe some companies don't realize, but the public sentiment about aquaculture did realize. So I think we need to work together in order to solve, in order to approve these new technologies. I think resilient and perseverance is my key word. I remember when I was when I owned this fish farm, and we got this huge problem with an outbreak of disease in Chile. We almost lost everything, you know. But working hard, being honest, then we managed to rebuild the company again. So, what can I say?
You said it. You said it. I think we all heard it. You talked about resilience and perseverance, which, you know, for any of us who have kids is something I think we're constantly trying to drill into them, is that, you know, that failure is your friend if you learn from it, and refusing to try again is about the worst thing that you can do. So, Suresh, your story in many levels is I think a pretty hopeful one. And I know that I started this with you know, kind of a little bit of a Debbie Downer on scale up, but I mean, look, the things we use every day in our lives have all been scaled up. Any physical something has been scaled up. So clearly, you can get there. And so I think it would be interesting if you can give us. We're running out of time, and I want to give everybody a chance to kind of have a last comment. But Suresh, I think anything that's both hopeful but real that you could share, either as advice or just as a personal anecdote, I think would be very valuable from my perspective.
Okay, so to answer that, every ingredient that we make for the Indonesian market, for example, someone had mentioned palm waste before. We use some of those waste locally and produce ingredients, and that shrimp makes its way to Walmart, which you can find today. It will say made in Indonesia. The fish grown in Costa Rica, the roast snapper, Dr. Barrows was a formulator for that. You can get it in Costco. Chickens with the label that says no antibiotics, those are the ones that we help create. That's at Walmart. And so what I'm getting at is, because we tried this product over millions of animals, whether it's shrimp, salmon, snapper, chickens, piglets, you get a certain level of confidence that your product is actually safe to use. And if you can get to larger and larger animals, the data that comes back on toxicity, necropsy, everything, leads you to believe that maybe this could be eaten by humans. I had so much data that I could go to regulatory agencies and say, look, here's all the data, and they made me go through a rodent trial and then human trial. And because all those other things were happening with Walmart and Costco and Amazon, I finally figured out how to package it for humans into pills that's now on Amazon and Walmart. In the last 1 month, we have sold so many of these. It's amazing. So this is really, whatever challenges you're going through right now, the light will click for something so valuable. So even though you may be making margins less than 10%, like I was on the animal ingredient side, believe me, the true value of your work will come to light, but you have to be at it and at it every day.
I'd just echo that. It's a lot of stuff is going to come at you that's very unpredictable. You really can't foresee it. You just got to roll with the punches and make the best of the situation. And I think if you've got the belief in the product, in the end market, then keep going. I think if you lose that vision, if you lose that feeling, then yeah, you've kind of lost your way. But if you still see it at the end of it, you can really go through a lot of dark times.
Yeah, I think maybe, this seems obvious, but it's all about the relationships, right? This is about partnerships. You're going to have partners. You're going to have investors. You're going to be working with researchers. You're going to be working with government agencies. You're going to be working with each other. You're going to be working against each other. So it's all about maintaining that professionalism, maintaining those relationships, and really kind of working together to help each other to get these products out.
And share the same ideas of Brian. We are trying to work together with the industry, not ourselves in front of the industry, but within. Today we have just a small comment again. We have a big challenge in Norway. The Norwegian industry is working mainly with Europe. So the main consumers of Norwegian salmon is the European countries. And they don't like GMO ingredients. And also animal byproducts, for example. So now, as Vidar said in the morning, the industry is changing, the industry is moving ahead. They recognize the need. So now there is a round table where we were invited as the first biotech ingredient approved in Norway. We are invited from these organizations, which is retailers and NGOs, in France, working with new alternatives to make salmon feed more sustainable for the future. So I think the only way we can be invited in this round table is being within them, together with them to solve the problem. So work with the industry.
Well, I think that's actually a very hopeful story there too. It's been a long time coming. Hopefully it'll work out the right way. But having the Norwegians approve the feed is just a gigantic step. And so congratulations on the heavy lift there. Suresh, by the way, I'll buy that. But you check out Thrive Oil on Thrive Culinary Oil on Amazon, and we'll buy from each other. Guys, I really want to thank you for what I think was a really helpful and informative panel. I think that you guys have a lot more to give to people in the room, and I would encourage you to be as free as you can with your time. People can learn a lot. Again, I want to thank F3, and I'm really excited to see what comes next. Thank you all.
Thank you.